you want women to stand in the space of consequence, one efficient way you can accomplish such an objective is by giving them autonomy and a sense of empowerment over their finances. However, according to some relevantly interesting statistics released by the Bank of Montreal, it appears that there's still more work to do in giving women full focus and confidence in how to manage their finances effectively. The bank reports that nearly three quarters of women, 73%, don't have a written financial plan in place, compared to only 64% of men. More men also have a financial advisor, according to the bank, at a rate of 42 to 37%, respectively, for women. And finally, when it comes to utilizing digital tools to manage your finances, only 17% of women take advantage of that, compared to a quarter or 25% of men. One woman on a mission to change the way women elevate their relationship with money is my friend Linda Grizely. She's a former financial planner turned financial coach who refers to herself as money mindset mentor. Her upbringing caused her to have a scarcity mindset when it came to money, and she vowed if she was ever in a position to empower women to take control of their pocketbook and regain their confidence with money, she would do it. She provides women with the practical structure necessary, which enables them to overcome internal obstacles in order to experience high-level success when it comes to their finances and planning their future. And she joined me this week to discuss how she helps women elevate their relationship with money. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. I began my conversation with Grizely by asking her how she helps women elevate their relationship with money.
It's important because most women, not all women, but most women have not had a lot of financial responsibility or financial knowledge. So they get like analysis paralysis or information overload when they start thinking about their finances. So what happens is that they end up doing nothing because it's just overwhelming. So it's important to me to empower women to talk about money, to think about money, and to understand how their mindset affects that and the things that they can do both internally and externally to improve their financial situation.
Yeah, and I know in your previous career as a financial planner, my friend, you witnessed some stories that got you passionate about the work that you currently do. So can you tell me about some of those stories and what sort of an impact it had on you?
Sure. So in financial planning, we talk to people about the numbers, and we can tell them like what you have now and what that's going to look like in the future. So it's like a big picture when you talk about planning. And as I was working with clients, I realized that sometimes there were clients who had beliefs that were either told to them or advice that was given to them or just things that they didn't think applied to them. And it really had me starting to think about like how much of our mindset and how much of our beliefs around money affect our finances. So it could be somebody whose father always told them never to pay off their mortgage and that all debt is bad, when in some cases it's not, because interest rates were super low for a while, you know. And then, or someone who takes advice from their brother who is in a completely different financial situation than they are. So maybe it's a brother who's a millionaire telling a brother who's, you know, middle class how to invest their money, but their situation is not the same. So trying to help them uncover what is internal in their mind that makes them make these decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And Linda, tell me, why do you think it's fundamentally important that women have a fundamental understanding of how their money works and how it impacts their lives? What are your thoughts there?
I think that they just need to um, they need to understand how it's impacting them, because in reality, in the past, more men were in charge of finances in a marriage or in a family or whatever, and women weren't. And there's more single women now than there was before. So they need to be responsible for themselves. And not only that, but the reality is that women live longer than men. So at some point, even if you're in a marriage and you feel like everything's fine, at some point it might not be fine. You might be the person who's taking care of everything. Your husband might be ill or have an injury or pass away, and you need to be educated enough to know what to do, or to at least maintain and understand what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And Linda, I know your upbringing had a big impact on you, and I know that you developed a scarcity mindset at some point in your life that really fueled the work that you do today. So I'm wondering how you overcame that scarcity mindset and how you help other women do the same.
Yeah, so I did it the hard way, by like trial and error, and just my own drive to for personal growth is what helped me to overcome it. So I did a lot of work on my own, and during some pivotal moments in my life, like jumped off some cliffs, did some really risky things with going back to school and leaving jobs and things like that. But it all paid off, and it was all very good for me. And what I realized in looking back was that I had actually changed my money mindset without even knowing that that's what I was doing. So now I help women do that in a structured a place, right? So they're not doing trial and error. I mean, they are somewhat, but they're learning about what's inside their heads so that they can make better decisions, and not go through that hard journey like I did, hopefully. So it's really teaching them how to think internally and foster that mindset growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you're a big believer in self improvement and self realization. And I know you help your clients do the same thing. So, why is it important to constantly be on that self improvement journey, in your opinion?
For me, it became a way of life. It became a way of life actually from the time that I was in high school. So I was in high school, I was an underachiever. I didn't even do my homework. I just like did enough to get by, totally an underachiever, had no goals in life. But then I was pregnant and I had a daughter when I was 16 years old, and that completely changed my life. And from that point on, I was like growth minded and on a mission to like build a life, build something that was important. I had meaning now because I had a child to take care of. So it was actually a really good thing to happen to me, because I don't know where I would be or what I would have done had that not happened. But it's important to me to continue that growth even now, because I'm always opening up to more things. My world and my mind is always getting bigger. And it's just opening up so many more opportunities and just making my life like more fulfilled.
Yeah, absolutely. Life is a constant game of learning, isn't it?
Definitely.
Absolutely. And, Linda, you talked earlier about structure and helping women change their relationship with money. So tell me the importance of building systems and understanding of money and how you help women build that structure. What does that look like?
So what I do in the money mindset mastery course is I help them understand why they do the things they do with money and help them listen to the voices in their head that aren't serving them and change those messages to positive. So having a positive mindset, positive relationship with money. So as a financial planner or a financial coach, we help with numbers, right? So it's all numbers, and that can be super overwhelming. But they also need to work on introspection, which in itself can be overwhelming too. So it sounds like a lot, but really, when you start thinking about all the things that are around psychology and psychometrics in what goes into your money mindset, and then you take that and you combine it with, working with a coach or a mentor to help you figure out the mindset. Sometimes even a professional like a counselor or therapist is needed in extreme cases, right? But it's all about achieving that overall financial success.
Yeah, and to that point, how do you think women specifically specifically uh, can be put on the road to financial freedom? What are your thoughts there?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that financial freedom is not all about numbers. Some people think it's just like, I want to be making enough money, have enough money to feel like I can do whatever I want. But that's not really what it's about. It's really about having a feeling of security and knowing that you're going to be okay. And so sometimes it's learning to be happy where you're at and being content with the amount of money that you have and coming in. And that doesn't mean that you stop growth, that you stop having that growth mindset. It just means that you are content and comfortable and have like a carefree sort of feeling where you're at.
Yeah, and Linda, for myself personally, I believe that overcoming internal blockages in life is a lifelong journey, no matter who you are. But I know that you also help women overcome those internal struggles or obstacles in order to gain some clarity. So, in your opinion, what's the key to overcoming those internal obstacles or blockages?
Oh gosh, there's there's a lot of work that needs to go into it. The key to it is being self-aware and opening yourself up to learning about yourself, noticing habit patterns, noticing thought patterns around money, around things around you, around money, not just for yourself, but money in the world. So what are those beliefs that you have, and what's the story that you're telling yourself about yourself with money and with yourself about money in the world? And changing and reframing those thoughts to positive ones that serve you better.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about developing mindset, I think for all of us, Linda, that's a different definition. But I'm wondering, when you talk about shifting mindsets, I'm wondering if you have any core principles that you work with your clients in order to get that done successfully.
Yeah, so doing the work, journaling, meditating, positive thought activities are a big part of that in overcoming those, because it's really about getting inside of your mind, and you have to make yourself go there. So that's the biggest part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Linda, I also wanted to talk to you about gender equality because, women, as you said, have to really control their future. And when we talk about gender specifically, there are large parts of women who still experience inequalities when it comes to earning wages or how they're perceived in the world. So I'm wondering, how do you think we can overcome the obstacle of inequality for women from a financial perspective? What are your thoughts there?
Well, the reasons why there's inequality are just because of society norms in the past, and that's getting better. Also, women historically haven't had financial responsibility or power of finances in marriage, and that's slowly changing. Many of my clients are in control of their finances now. The issue is that they don't have a lot of knowledge about the bigger picture. They might understand how a budget works, but they might not understand cash flow and long-term forecasting. And then as far as like the workforce goes, like we're the ones who tend to take time out of the workforce to care for children or aging parents, which hinders our career and earning growth, right? Because we're taking that time away. Some of the barriers that are there are going to take like legislation for equal pay and transparency in salaries. And then companies themselves promoting gender equality and providing resources for development and supporting women in their dual roles as mothers and employees. So more flexibility. And I think that having everybody gone remote during COVID really helped with that. But now that companies are bringing people back, mothers are again starting to fall from the workforce because they're trying to find that balance between being a parent and working.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm wondering your thoughts also about these findings from Forbes as well, that said the racial wage gap for women can cost them up to $1 million, according to Forbes. And as you mentioned, they also talk about what they classify as the motherhood penalty when mothers go back to work. So I'm wondering your thoughts on these findings and how we can rediscover or redefine women's relationship with finances.
Right. So this again goes back to, like you said, women cutting hours or leaving jobs to take care of children. And another thing though that goes into this is the mindset, right? So for instance, myself, when I took time out of the workplace to care for my children, I was out of the workplace for several years. And when I went to go back into the workplace, my goal was to make the same amount of money that I was making when I left. But in reality, with inflation and everything, that should not have been my goal. My goal should have been to add inflation in and at least make as much with that number inflated to today's rates, even without, salary increases because I wasn't working, but my number should still have been higher. So I was happy. I thought I was happy going back and taking the same amount of pay that I was making several years earlier, when really I was just completely undervaluing myself. I didn't know what I was worth. So that's a part of the mindset part of it too.
Yeah, and Linda, I'm also wondering your thoughts on overall, what do you think it'll take to treat women fairly in the pocketbook and really begin the process of compensating them the same as their male counterparts? I know that there's been work that's been targeted for this regard, but I'm curious, what do you think is the overall big picture when we talk about fair wages for women?
I think that it goes back to that transparency in salaries. And a lot of states have made a requirement now that they post a pay range when they post a job. And I feel like every single job should post the pay range. I mean, the company, if they're putting a job out there, they have an idea of what they're going to be paying for that, or they wouldn't be putting it out there. They know how it fits into their budget. And the pay range is based on, your experience, your education, and what you bring to the table. It should not be based on your gender. And I think that by having that there, at least that women and men will be within the same range. But what happens is that men tend to ask for more money and women tend to ask for less money. We devalue ourselves. We don't recognize our own worth. And men either do recognize their own worth or sometimes overvalue themselves. And I don't mean that to sound like I'm bashing men at all. I'm just saying, as an overall whole, when we talk about salary negotiation, men are much better at it than women are.
Yeah, and I'm also wondering. We talked about earlier your upbringing and why that's important to you. But as you've gotten older, why is it personally important to you to put women on a path to financial success? What are your thoughts there?
I just know so many women that feel that information overload or analysis paralysis when it comes to their finances. It's something they weren't taught, and it's not something that people like to talk about. So when they start thinking about it, they get overwhelmed at all the things that they need to think about or they need to review and get done, and they have no idea where to start. So a lot of times they don't do anything. They just keep going because it just seems like it's too much.
Yeah, and to that point, how do you define financial empowerment for women? What's your definition of that concept or term?
To me, by becoming financially empowered, or what I hope to give to my clients is their ability to talk about their ability to be willing to talk about money, their ability to learn about their finances or their desire to learn about their finances, right? So learning about finances, being comfortable talking about it, that's financial empowerment to me. And by having that first piece, then hopefully they will also continue to grow and do planning and understand big picture and be more confident about their worth.
Yeah, and for any women watching this today, Linda, what are your thoughts on any principles or guides that you give women about what to put into a great financial plan so that they can have that structure? So, what goes into that great financial plan to achieve both balance and security, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I'm a little biased. I think that everyone should work with a planner or a coach if they're not ready for a planner. But and do holistic planning, which includes a look at everything in your financial life. So looking at like your cash flow, your day to day. I don't like the term budgeting because I think it sounds so restrictive, but cash flow and understanding how that works, understanding how different accounts that you're saving, and what their purpose is, and when they might be used in the future. And then knowing where to get your financial stability, having an emergency fund, things like that. So, it's really about taking all of the pieces and putting them together, but at the same time, uncovering your money mindset around it so that you are open to change and open to new ideas and open to realizing that you might be getting in your own way.
Yeah, you know what, Linda, I've got a trio of questions left for you, and the first of those three questions is I'm curious to ask you about what does it mean to you to be practical with your finances and really living within your means, and what does financial practicality mean to you?
I think financial practicality is just that, living within your means, but also making sure that you have a plan for the future. So living within your means could mean that you're just living paycheck to paycheck. It might not mean you're saving anything, but you want to go a step farther and save, have an emergency fund, start saving for your future, for retirement. And the younger you are, when people think, oh, I'm too young to worry about that, but the younger you are, the better you're going to do because you're going to have that power of compounding over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. And Linda, I'm curious, before I ask you about your overall legacy and how you want that to be defined, I'm curious to ask you about when you're out of the office, how do you find what I call your inner center, or how do you reconnect with yourself outside of work, my friend?
So I like to relax. I like to go on vacation. I like to take care of my flowers in my yard and ground myself by being outside. And really, it's just taking time away to reset.
It's important for that self care, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Absolutely. And Linda, when you look at your overall life and your legacy from both a personal and professional steps, what I'm curious to know, how do you want your legacy to be defined?
I want it to be defined by how many people I have empowered and inspired to be and do more.
Well, that's certainly a noble cause, my friend, and I know you're off to a running start in doing that. And before we say goodbye to each other, Linda, tell me, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
They can connect with me on LinkedIn, Linda Grizely, Grizely, and there's a bear next to my name. So, the grizzly bear. So that's the easy way to know that that's me. And they can also connect on my website, mindsetandmoney.com. And if they put /pod, POD for podcast, there's a special offer in there, a freebie download and a money mindset quiz they can take too.
Fantastic. Well, Linda, I really want to thank you for the transformational role that you're taking on helping women elevate their finances, and for engaging in conversation with me this morning. It's most appreciated.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate you having me here.